In this video, we're going to take this to the final step in terms of integrating models and views. It's a very, very exciting video because we're going to take the information that we have put into our database and we're going to be able to connect it to a view to display on a web page. We will get to the templates part in the next section of the course, in the next module. So we're keeping the templates fairly simple at this point, but you'll see how a relational database connects now to a Django view. It's going to be very, very interesting stuff. So you should have watched the video from the beginning, the integrating models and views, the first video, and you should have your project, your company project all set up with an HR application embedded inside of it. If you don't have that, please make sure you go back to the previous videos and watch those and build the project on your own computer. It'll make a lot more sense if you go through the process with me here. Okay, the first thing we need to do is, remember, what we're doing is we're delegating. We're allowing the main application to hand off or delegate requests to one of the added applications. And as I pointed out, we have the HR added application in our project. Now, I have a lot of stuff here, I know. I'm going to try to clean this up a little bit for you. But we're going to focus on this company project that we built in class. And inside that, we have an HR added project. If you look at the urls.py, which is on the page here, you'll see that we have, this is the boilerplate urls.py. That's what is generated when you do a Django admin start project command. And so this is what you see. Now the comment up here is not needed, but I will point out that there is very important information in here and it can be useful to leave it in. So for example, it does tell you how to actually use the include. It gives you an example right here of how to use an include to delegate because this is such a common function. I'm going to leave it in for now because there is a lot of good information in here and you can take time to read it because it does really help. One thing I will point out is we're still not using the admin, so there's really no reason for us to keep that in. I'm going to comment it out because if I wanted to add it back later, it would be easy to do so. But we really don't need it, and we're going to change this admin call because we're not using the admin. So let's start here, and what we want to do is we want to indicate which pattern is going to be delegated, and that is anything after the server root, that is www.mycompany.com/HR/. That's what's going to be delegated, so we want to indicate that. And then consistent with this example right here, we're going to use include. And we're going to indicate then which file it is, which is hr.urls. And that will allow us to delegate. Now, if you do this now, you'll get an error. And again, this is the same type of error that you will commonly get. You'll notice this error right here. And that is because we have not imported the include. You have to import the include. It is a method. So we're going to say, you're going to add that up here to this. And that should, when you say save all, it should clear up the error. That is all we really need to do at this point. The HR should, the reason is this needs to be in quotes per the example. All right, there we go. Now that should take care of that. All right, it's another good reason to keep this example in here because you can just look and see exactly that the quotes go around the hr.urls. That's all we need to do. So that, for regard to the URLs, that's taken care of. That means any pattern that comes in with /HR/ at the end of the root call, we'll delegate it. So let's go down to our HR file. And now what we need to do is, you'll notice that the HR added project, added application, includes a models file, it includes the views file, but it does not include a urls.py file, which it does not include by default. So we have to right click and say new file, add a urls.py file. And then what we need to do, of course, is build our urls.py file. What we want to do is, remember, this file is going to take care of anything that goes after the /HR/. So anything that's after that in terms of a web request, that's what this file is going to take care of. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to import the views. Now, of course, we don't have a views file yet. We do have a views file, but we haven't built the views yet. So we're going to say .import views. And any view that we reference right now is going to generate an error because we haven't constructed any of the Python functions yet. We will do that in just a minute. Now we're going to say, we also need to import the path. So let me get the import from here. It's easier just to copy it. So we'll say import Django URLs, we'll say copy. Remember, anything that you use, you do have to import. So anything that has, so we're going to need to use paths. And then I'm going to go back here again, and I'm going to copy this because it's always in the URLs pattern format. And again, this is going to take care of anything that is after HR/. This is in the HR added application. So if we do an HR root call, that is www.mycompany.com/HR/, this would be the pattern. That is nothing that occurs after the slash. So if we hit this will be the HR homepage in a sense. So we're going to say views.gohome, and we're going to give it a name. And I know we haven't talked about what we're doing with this name thing, but we will get there. These names are very, very helpful, and we'll get that later. We'll see that later. That's all we need to do. Now, in the example, in the PowerPoint slides, I had another one with employee. I'm not going to cover that specific one here in this video. Let's keep it simple, but this simply takes care of a root call. Okay, this takes care of a root call under HR. Now that we have this, let's save this. Okay, and now we're referencing, of course, the views.py file. And what we need to do is build our view, and the name of that is Go Home. So I'm going to copy that so I get it exactly correct. I'm going to go over here. Now I'm going to build my view. Def, I'm going to paste Go Home. Remember, all views have to include a request parameter, so we'll include that. And then I'm going to do something very, very simple. I am going to say return HTTP request, and I'm just going to build a very simple HTML example here. So we'll say HR homepage. And all right. And now I need to import that. I'm not using render right now, but I will use it in just a second. So from Django.http import h. Now, as I told you in an earlier video, we're not going to use this approach, the HTTP request approach, very often. It's very simplistic, but it works really, really well when you're just starting with a website to make sure that everything is connected and is working properly. We'll increase the complexity of this, but we want to make sure is that the handoffs are occurring, that if I type in a request /HR/, does it really handle this? And we don't want a request here, we want a response. That's why that error is there. Response, because this is returning the response, not the request. All right, we'll save all. Good, that goes away. Let's give this a try. Let's check this out and see if it's working. I want to make sure my web server is running. I'm going to kill this in just a second here, and I'm going to go back up one level, and I'll do ls. And you'll notice now, and I was playing around with different things, so I had one called company root done. That was the one that I actually finished to make sure I had it correct. So let me go down into the company root. So I'll say company root. That is the current project that I'm working on. If I do ls, I should see manage.py, and I do. So Python manage.py run server. And I have an error. Okay, well, this is okay. When we get an error, that's a good thing to do. It says closing parentheses. So let's go over to the views.py. You'll notice it says that the error is in the urls.py file under HR. So let's go over there. You'll notice I have an extra paren here, and that's okay. So let's fix that. It's good that professors get these errors too, right? Save all. All right. Now it clears the error and we're all set. What I want to do is I want to run this, and again, remember the flow. If I go over to company, just get that away. There we go. If I go over to company, HR, you'll notice I'm not handling any root requests to the main server. I'm only handling requests that go to HR. So I'm going to click this, but I'm going to get a 404 error because I don't have a home page. I don't have a www.company.com page at all, which means it's going to generate a 404, but that's okay. So I'm going to hold the control key down, hit this, and this is expected. This is what we would expect. But if I add /HR, I should see that HTTP response, and I do. Now what that means is, and if I go to view page source, I can see the code. This is exactly what I returned. That means our connection is working, and that's good. That's really important. All right, so let's go back now to our view, and let's increase the complexity here a little bit. Now we've got this working, so let's use the render. Let's use the render. And what I want to do is I'm going to I'm going to actually add a print statement. The first thing what I want to do is I want to get all the employees. I want to get all the employees. So from, and remember, hr.models. That goes to the HR application, and it goes to the models file, which of course is where our schema is stored for our database. And we're going to import, what are we going to import? The employee. That means now we've got access to all the employee information. I can now say employees equals, and I can say employee.objects. This is what we did, remember, in the shell. If that works, that means employees. I am going to be able to access all of the employees, and it's going to be stored in the employees object. I want to check and make sure that's going to work. So I'm going to say, and I'm going to add a bunch of, I do this because then it's easier to see it in the terminal window down below. And I'm going to concatenate plus, and then I'm going to say str employees. Now remember, the str method, the magic method that we put in the models file, determines how this is going to be printed. So we should be able to see all the employees right inside the terminal window. We won't see it in the web page because we didn't do any passing yet. But again, one thing at a time, I want to make sure that this works. So I'm going to say File, Save All. Okay. I'm going to go back to my web page, and I'm going to hit refresh. Let me close this. This is the views page source. I'm going to hit refresh. Again, this doesn't change, but I did hit the view again. At least I think I did. And if I go back, you'll notice down here, all of those employees are listed. That means it did go out to the employee table. It did load up all the employees, and I do have access to them. So now I'm getting pretty confident here. So now I'm going to say data equals, and you've seen me do this before, data equals, and now what we're going to do is we're going to build a data dictionary. This is going to allow us to pass data to a template. And so we're going to give it a name. We're going to say emps employees. All right. Now we're going to use the render. The render's already been imported. Render is so awesome. And so we're going to say return render. First argument is always the request, then the name of the file, which we have not yet created. Now we need an HTML file. Let's call it hrhome.html. It's appropriate. And then the last thing, of course, is the data that we're passing. Now at this point, we don't have an HR home file. And as I mentioned to you in the PowerPoint slides in the earlier presentation, this is one of the reasons why the HR added application is so awesome. This is how Django wants you to do it. And that is, once we're in the HR added application, all we need to do now is add a templates folder, add the hrhome.html, it'll automatically find it. We don't need to touch the settings file. As long as the templates are in an added application, Django absolutely loves it. That's what Django likes. So we're going to say new folder, templates. Now this is in the HR application. Make sure you spell templates right because it does look for that. Then right click and say new file, and we're going to call it hrhome.html. That looks good. I didn't do any misspellings. All right, and now we're in HR. What I want to do is I simply want to print the name of the employees. So I'm going to keep it very simple. I'm going to say paragraph, and I'm going to say employees. Now I am purposely making a mistake here. So let's see what happens. File, save all, and you probably don't pick up the employees, what the mistake is, but let's take a look. So if I run this, I want to make sure that the page is going to work. I'm not getting any errors. That's good. Let me go over here and let me refresh. And you'll notice nothing happens. And if I view the page source, I've got two paragraph symbols, but there's nothing in between. There's a reason for this, and this is probably one of the most common errors you will make, especially when you're first starting with Django. Remember in the views that whatever you put on the left side of the colon, that is how you must refer to it in the HTML file. This is a very common mistake. I get questions from students all the time saying, nothing is appearing on my web page and I don't know why. Whatever's on the left side, on the right side is that's the values, that's the actual variables. But what is on the left side is how you must refer to it, okay, in the HTML file. Now I can leave this, if I leave this as emps, I've got to change the HTML file. So I called it emps, but in the HTML file, I refer to it as employees. So I have to change this now. If I change it to emps and I save it, that should work. Let me refresh. Ah, this is looking better. All right, that was the page source. Let me refresh this. There we go. Now it looks pretty ugly, and the reason for that is we're printing, in effect, the object names. It's using that magic method to determine the format. So this video showed you in a quick example of how to use templates. It wasn't meant to really illustrate templates completely. We will get to that in the next module. So hold on tight, because the next module is going to be a lot of fun. Take care.